Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming to Roland Keyz and Beats Summit at Musicians Institute. My name is Stephen Fortner. I'm the editor of a little magazine called Keyboard, which is about keyboard playing and keyboard technology. And we are very privileged to have with us today keyboardist for Dream Theater and synth wizard laureate of the planet, Mr. Jordan Rudess.
What a nice introduction. I like that. Thank
you. A question that is a real question off Twitter from Michael Hodges and relevant to the kind folks at Roland who brought us here today. Ask Jordan, what does he honestly think about the new Roland Gaia?
Okay, so it's sitting right here in front of me. I've had the instrument for about a week or so, and I've had a really, really in-depth session with it. Matter of fact, I wrote a piece, which I'm going to play for you later, which really features it. And you know, it's interesting. My gig as a musician, as a keyboardist, is really interesting because I get called upon to work with new pieces of technology, new instruments, and to highlight them and show, you know, what they can do and what the magic is. So it's been my kind of like interest and my task to look at this instrument and in a very short amount of time kind of say, okay, well, what is the, you know, most powerful part of this? What can I show? And just because somebody sends me an instrument doesn't mean I'm gonna like it. You know, I mean, okay, so, but the reality is that this instrument was sent to me, and of course, you know, I mean, let's face it, it's a new Roland synthesizer, and there's going to be a lot of really good things about it. So I've had a really great time with this instrument. I think it's designed, and maybe one of the guys at Roland can even correct me if I'm wrong, but the marketing focus of this is for people who are perhaps new to like the synthesizer world, but want to buy something that's really very powerful, that you can be really creative with. It's not necessarily geared for somebody like me who's been working with synthesizers forever. Although, there's a big although, it's a very, very powerful synthesizer. Some of you won't realize just looking at it that it can run off batteries. So you don't even need to plug it into the wall. It's extremely light. And one thing that I really, really like about it is kind of like having three synthesizers in one. They're three separate tones, and each tone goes through the whole signal path. And so you can have like all these, you can have like 6 different clocks going on at the same time. And you'll see when I play it, there's a really, really wide assortment of sounds. So I have to say I'm impressed with it. I think it's really good. I would recommend it, you know, to someone who wanted to just have a really cool synthesizer and just make all kinds of great sounds and flexibility and something light and not that expensive. It's definitely a good instrument. All right, so here we are. It was like about 4 years ago or so, getting ready to do a world tour, and we're in San Diego. And Charles Tentindo, the designer of the Zen Riffer, decided to come down and show me his new creation, which I heard about, but I never saw. The Zen Riffer, for those of you who are not familiar, is my like guitar type of thing. It looks like a deadly weapon. So he brought it down. The guys in the band had not seen it. But I was interested to see it. So it was like the first rehearsal, the first day. He shows up, he's got it in the case, and he shows it to me. He says, "What do you think? You know, can you do something with it? You know, do you think you'll play it on the tour?" I'm like, "Look, Charles," I said, "I think it's really, really cool. It's awesome." I said, "But I'm in a metal band, and the chances of them allowing me to come on the stage with this thing strapped around me are almost zero." I said, because, you know, notoriously, it's uncool in the metal world. But I said, you know what? Let's try it. I said, I think it looks pretty cool. So it's a convenient spot in our day to like strap this thing on, and I put it on me, and I walk out front, and you know I've got it connected, and I've actually got it connect. It's a controller. It doesn't make any sound by itself, but I got it plugged into my V-Synth. And I was just hired about a month prior to this to make a whole bunch of sounds for Roland. And within that bank of sounds that I made some really, really cool leads, some very personal kind of cool leads. So I had all these sounds. So I plugged it into, you know, the V-Synth, and I called up one of my like really raucous, high energy leads. And I went out, and you know, and the guy started to play a tune, and I came out and I was playing something. And Mike went, "Wait a minute." He stopped the whole band, and he said, pointed at me and said, "What is that?" And I said, it's a new instrument. It's called a Zen Riffer. He says, "You got to use that." I said, "What?" He's like, you gotta play that. That's awesome. And John Petrucci looks at me and says, wow, that's a ridiculous, that's a crazy sound, man. That thing's awesome. To this day, the guys don't realize that the sound of the Zen Riffer is not the Zen Riffer. The sound of the Zen Riffer is the Roland V-Synth. So it's just an interesting, when you look at something and you see somebody playing it, especially when it's wireless, you're thinking, well, that's the sound, it's that, but it's not. And actually, in that same kind of thing is that some of you know that I play an instrument called the continuum. It's a continuum fingerboard made by Haken, and the continuum. So, and you think of the continuum, and a lot of you only know it from what I do with Dream Theater. So you know the sound the continuum makes, right? You guys know the sound? Okay. Well, that sound, it's not the continuum. The sound has nothing to do with the continuum. The sound is the Roland V-Synth. We keep coming back to the Roland V-Synth. Okay, so what was it? Like a couple of years ago, Roland sent me the VP550 to check out, which is, Roland makes some of the coolest vocal instruments that I've ever seen. And a lot of people, if you don't know about what they do in that area, you owe it to yourself to find out, because it's something that many people don't know about. And I keep, whenever I talk to a Roland person about this, I'm always like, man, these are so cool. People just don't know. You just got to keep on pushing it. So it's always a topic. So I got this thing, and you can do you can go online and you can Google Rudess and VP550 or VP770. You can see some really cool stuff. So when I got that, I first played it for Mike and John, the Dream Theater Police, and I played it for them. And Mike was like, "Man, you can't use that." I was like, "What? You can't use it?" He's like, "Yeah, we don't use like fake stuff, It was it was funny. We like to do, because what he's saying is we like to really play, and we like to, when we do vocals, we like to really do our own vocals. What he doesn't understand, and what many of us in the room know, is that when I play my Phantom keyboard, when I play my V-Synth keyboard, most of the time you're triggering some kind of a sample. It might just be like a static sample, like an ah, or if I'm doing vocals, an ah or an ooh, or maybe you use the joystick or whatever to crossfade between them. But it's going to be a sample. I can't tell Mike that, because he'll say, well, we can't even play the keyboard. I'll be out of a job. So when he said that, I took, at first I was like, well, I felt a little bad or whatever. But then I thought, you know what? Okay, whatever. And I told the engineer, put that instrument in the studio, because we're going to be using it. So I ended up using it a bunch on, what album was it? Systematic Chaos, for a lot of the big vocal things. Not to say words or anything, but if I want to go, I don't have one here to demonstrate, but if I go, something that just has that sound, so it's more than just going over and playing my vocal sample. It just has more life to it, but it doesn't scream at you like this is some, you don't even really know. It just adds to the sound, in a vocal kind of way. Nobody's thinking, oh, that's a that's somebody doing a fake voice thing. So
you can use them for so much more than that, though, right? There's your sort of Mr. Roboto kind of cliche about vocoders, and then there's all sorts of subtle things you can do to impart cool envelopes and subtly vocal qualities onto a synthesizer sound. And you get something that, it sounds more like your keyboard is singing than like you're trying to sound like a robot.
Well, one of the most fun things that I've done with vocoding is on the V-Synth is that I was able to make some sounds like a kind of like a talking or singing bassoon. I made a singing trumpet. You can do all this really cool stuff with the instruments and kind of adding your voice and shaping them with your voice, and you can get, it's really pretty far out. I wake up every day and I think, wow, what's today going to bring? What kind of sounds? What kind of toys? These days I've been sleeping less and less because I'm just too excited about all these different sonic weird devices that are coming out.
Even if one can even call it an entry level synth like the Gaia, you interact with your sound in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it's all about the kind of it's about building, whether it's the Gaia or whether it's about an iPad. Building a musical instrument is all about what the relationship is going to be with your instrument. So it's Roland's job to make, and this is one of the reasons that I think a company like Roland is crucial for the music world in general, because Roland has this incredible experience and team of musicians and engineers that think about music, that have the ability to make an instrument with the technology that will relate to the musician's mind. It's really, really important. It's different than just buying a computer and buying a bunch of software and trying to string it all together and to use it in some musical way. When you buy a Roland instrument, any of these instruments on stage, these are instruments that are made to be cohesive musical instruments. It might not do one of these might not do everything, but for what it does do, you can establish a real relationship with it, and that's why we call it an instrument.